right. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining the first BI user group of 2025. And thank you for those who are online and both in person. Once again, apologies for the technical difficulties we're having today. I'll see what's going on with the cable. It seems like a problem with the cable. But today we've got some exciting news. We're going to be talking through the BI news from Sia, the fabric news from myself, and then we have a main presentation today called the best Power BI features from 2024. That's Sven will be presenting for us. So let's kick it off. As I mentioned, that is the agenda for today. So Sia, if we can jump over to you, that would be great. And for your BI news.
Thanks, Cailin. Welcome everyone to the first installment of the user group for 2025. I think we are all having technical difficulties today. I must apologize. I don't have a presentation to share with you this evening. So I will be covering still the BI news, but I'll be covering that from my notes. At a later stage, I will make the presentation available so that can be added to our Git repository for those who wish to go back and actually see the visuals that were part of this presentation. So I do apologize on my side for that. All right, without any further ado, I'd like to just start with the news updates. The news portion of the news and updates. So in terms of the news, I've got one topic there. This is for the FabCon 2025. So this is Microsoft Fabric Conference for 2025. It's the second year that they are now doing it. Last year was the first year, so this marks the second year for the conference. It will be happening between the 1st of March to the 2nd of April. So yeah, there will be some workshops there that cover various topics such as Power BI, Copilot and AI, Fabric, and more. So if you are interested, you can go to the Microsoft website for more details on that, and also looking at the pricing for each of those days that the conference will be held. All right. Coming to then our first updates topic of the day, I'd like to just talk about the Tyndall scripting experience, which is now a preview feature within Power BI that you can enable. This basically allows you to do things such as code your models, where you can define Power BI data models using a text-based language like Tyndall. Version control, this allows you to track changes and collaborate using systems such as Git or other systems for collaboration that are supported. Things like automate your tasks, script data model creation, modifications, and so forth. So it does allow you to take more of a code-based approach in terms of how you work with your data models, as opposed to the traditional semantic model approach that we've been working with. The second topic for the update section is edit your data model in Power BI Service. This is also another preview feature, which allows you to have functionality such as editing your models online, directly modify your Power BI data models in the web service. It allows things like faster changes by streamlined model updates without desktop round trips. So you don't necessarily need to always publish a model to, update the data models, which in some cases, that's how we used to do it. And you also get benefits like increased access, which empowers more users to adjust the data model as opposed to having to share files and things like that. But again, this has been getting better with things like collaboration through Git and DevOps. All right, the third topic for the day is about the semantic model version history, which is also another preview that has been introduced in the January update. This allows you to have functionality such as automatic saves. Basically, Power BI automatically versions your data models. This will be turned on by default for premium workspaces. So you have to be on a premium workspace in order for you to take advantage of that feature. You also get things such as easy recovery, which allows you to revert to the previous version of your model if something has happened and you want to roll back to a previous stable model. And it reduces risk. So this basically protects against accidental data model changes, as I've said, or some errors that might have occurred and you want to roll back to the previous stable version. It now allows you to have that flexibility, which I actually think is a very good change for that. All right, and then the last topic that I have for the update section is the Explore This Data, a new entry point from a visual. So this is a new feature that has also been introduced in the January release. It allows you to have functionality such as instant insights, which you can use to explore the data. That lets you basically instantly dive deeper into the data that could be presented within a visual. It allows you to effortlessly explore the data trends and patterns, and you can also easily switch between different visual styles from that same dialogue without necessarily needing to go to the visual list within Power BI to switch out visuals. Basically, it allows you to deep dive into your data and ask questions that can be then answered back. So it does have a little bit of, I would say, AI sprinkled into it to allow that functionality, but it allows users to basically do a lot more with self-service. Okay, and with that, that brings me to the end of my section for the Power BI news and updates. If there are any questions or comments, please let me know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sia. Thank you for that. I will quickly reshare the screen. For those in the room, apologies that you can't see it, but I will share these with you after the fact. Perfect. Sorry, there we go. Okay, so onto the MS Fabric news. There are 3 new things that actually were launched or kind of discussed within Microsoft over the last month specifically. So I just focused on those 3 for today. The first being the private preview of Migration Assistant for Fabric Data Warehouse. So basically in 2024, Microsoft announced this sneak peek of this migration assistant that was designed to accelerate the migration of SQL Server, Synapse dedicated SQL pools, and other warehouses to the Fabric Data Warehouse. So this tool basically enables users to migrate the code and data from the source database, automatically converting the source schema and code to Fabric Data Warehouse. So it helps with data migration and providing AI assistance. So currently this feature is only in the preview mode. You can actually go onto Microsoft Fabric's website and sign up as someone who can actually test this. They're actually calling for volunteers for those who want to see how it works, but right now it's still only in the private preview phase, so it's not available for use just yet. And then the second one is the SQL endpoint connection is now available in Microsoft Fabric Warehouse, or Event House, sorry. So basically this Event House has expanded its SQL query federation capabilities by supporting query federation to more tabular data streams, protocol endpoints, specifically the SQL analytical endpoints. So they do this by using create and alter Azure SQL external tables command. And basically what this allows you to do is to connect to Fabric SQL analytical endpoints and warehouses in addition to the previously supported functionality. So it's really nice that you can actually make this more compatible now, specifically to the endpoints functionality. And then the very last one that I want to speak about today is actually the ownership takeover for Fabric items. So I'm sure many of you have experienced this in business where you have a specific user who has the permissions to, do certain things on certain Fabric items, and then they leave the organization and their credentials now nobody can access that specific resource anymore because that person was the only one who was able to do so. So Fabric users now, with the right permissions, can take ownership of Fabric items from other employees. So it's given us the ability to basically make sure that business continuity stays intact when certain individuals leave that had sole access to these types of resources. So that's quite a nice change actually from previous use cases. So yeah, those are the few little updates that Microsoft have given us over the last month, something quite exciting to look forward to. And there are some blogs. I will post the links in the chat a bit later today. So for those who want to read a bit more about how exactly this works, please go to those links. There are little demos as well online as to how it works too. So if you have some time, you can play around with that. All right. So then onto the main term of the event of today. Let me stop sharing. Sven, over to you.
All right. Thank you for that, Cailin. So let me just share my screen quickly. I've got a Power BI report, which I want to share. There it is. Some of you have been around for a few years. You would have seen this before. I've presented it previously. I've done it for a few years now. I'd actually not planned to present today. My colleague Nolo was supposed to present, but unfortunately he's hasn't been at work this week. So I've had to take over from him, but he did all the work and I'm just sharing his hard work to all of you. So basically what we did is we scraped a whole lot of content from the Power BI blog posts. You know, the monthly blog post that has the list of all the Power BI features, the new releases. Now, basically, that comes out once a month. They used to skip January. So last year, January, there wasn't an update. But last year, they also skipped December, but they did one in January. So Sia's just covered January 2025 news. But what that really means is that last year, they missed January and December. So we've got 10 updates, 10 months of updates. I'm just focusing here on 2024. We've got obviously a long list of these updates, and we've scraped them from those blog posts. Then what we did is we categorized it into a spreadsheet. Analysts basically categorized long lists of things to make it more meaningful. So basically, it was categorized by month. The release month was categorized into different sections like reporting, DAX and modeling, Copilot, paginated reports, sharing performance, and so on. So those are like some groupings of it. What we did is we ignored all of the connector updates. There are many connector updates each month. You know, there's an update to the Snowflake connector or the Azure connector or the SAP connector. We didn't look at any of those because they're useful, but they're not as important as the other features. So we ignored connection updates and we ignored custom visuals, because that also has a long list that isn't so relevant in this case. So basically, once we had that long list excluding visuals and connections, we then went through the list and decided whether, in our opinion, and Sia also helped with that sort of initial allocation, whether we thought it was a top feature of the year. Okay, and then once we had a list of top features, we then ranked them A, B, and C. Okay, meaning A is the best of the features, B is second best, C is third best, and then we've got some special mention, 14 of them. Okay, so I'm just giving you a long build up. I'm going to explain the actual answers in our opinion soon. And then actually what would be nice is if people can give their feedback, because obviously Nolo, Sia and I did look at this ourselves, but there could be other opinions that we would love to hear from you. So please do feel free in a little while just to contribute. If you agree, disagree, if you want to add something, you're more than welcome. But doing this once a year is also very useful because, you know, with the cadence of releases of new features coming out every month, it's actually hard to remember what came out in February or March last year. Okay. In fact, let alone the year before that. So it is nice just to sort of recap on a few things. Okay. So that's what we'll do. We're going to run through some of these and we'll just use some filters here. But okay, I just wanted to mention a couple of things, and I think I've done most of them. Oh, yes. There is one other thing. Sometimes a new feature is released, let's just say February of last year, and then they do an update to that feature, let's just say in June and again in September. We've only counted that as one feature, okay? Whether we're doing it at top or, you know, or we're ignoring it or not. So if it's a repeat feature where there's an enhancement, we just count it as one feature. So then let's look at some stats. Basically then, last year, between February and November, we had 197 features released, okay, of which we've decided 19 are really important, of which 14 are special mention. So we really are going to focus on, sorry, that can't be right. Oh, 19 is top, meaning these top A, B, and C, excluding the special features, okay. Basically then let's jump into some of these. Some of them there's actually okay, so I've opened some browser windows to explain some of the others in a bit more detail. I didn't do that for everyone, and for instance in this case dark mode, I don't know. I was actually in Sweden at FabCon when they announced it, and everyone, the entire audience went nuts. But I'm still very happy in the light mode. Although, if you love dark mode, I'm sure you were very happy in the September release. By the way, this is just it's A's, B's, and C's together. It isn't, in our opinion, the number one out of all the A's. It's just they've been grouped together in this way. Okay. The next one, DAX Query View, is available in Live Connect. Now, the DAX Query View, that is this view over here. That's been around for a little while now. I happen to love this one where it is connected. It is available against Live Connect because, for those who don't know what a Live Connect model is, it is someone else has developed the semantic model, the data model. They've published the report. Now you can create self-service reports off of that. Okay, and you get to see, okay. Oh God, don't really have much to show you in this one, but basically, a list of the tables, a list of the measures, and all of that stuff on the right-hand side. But you never get to see, and you'll have this little message at the bottom that says you're connected live to model ABC in workspace XYZ, but you'll never get to see what the rows and columns look like in each of those tables. Why? Because it is a live connection model, which means the model is in the service, Power BI service, and you just get to use, by dragging and dropping these elements, including some measures, you get to use them to build your own report, but you never get to see the structure. Okay, yes, you can see the relationships, but you can't see the columns. You can get the column names from here, but you can't see what's populating them. And in some cases, you don't need that because maybe you know the data well, but in other cases, it's very limiting. And I actually had to do some work for a client on a client's semantic model that I couldn't get access to. So I couldn't see the rows and columns, and that was quite tricky for me. So the new DAX Query View really helps. And one of them is, by the way, you get to start using these info functions. So info.view, and now you've got these top 4, which I think are really great. It'll give you a list of all the columns, or a list of all the measures, or the relationships of the tables. Or you can go and evaluate a specific table, and then it'll give you in the results section, the top 10 or top 100 or top 1,000 rows, but you'll get to see all the columns and an example of what's in them. So I happen to think that's an amazing feature. You are welcome to stop me along the way if you need to. It's no problem. All right, the next one here is metric sets. Now, that was announced in preview in November, but they didn't do a huge announcement on it. It is at the moment premium capacity only, but I actually spoke to the program owner. I've now suddenly forgotten her name, because I met her in Sweden, and I really liked this particular feature. But there's also that Power BI scorecards feature, which I had some feedback to share with them. That used to be called goals. Then it was rebranded to metrics. And now, because of metric sets, they've changed metrics back to goals again. And sometimes you might even call them scorecards. I don't actually have one of those open to show you. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, in the Power BI service, it's got one of those little victory, what's it, your trophy. It's got a little trophy. It's meant to measure your KPIs and your metrics, but like I said, they've been rebranded to goals to make space for this new thing, metric sets. Now I think they're going to make a big deal of it in a few months' time when it's a bit more, well, when it's a little bit further down the line in terms of preview functionality, and when it becomes more accessible, meaning not only F or P premium, because it's obviously that restricts who can access it. But you probably can't visualize what on earth I'm talking about. So let me just go here and specifically, no, that's visual calculations. Sorry, that little thing is blocking me. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so sorry, Cailin, would you mind just admitting that one person? I just can't jump to that now. But okay, so basically metric sets. For the world of self-service BI, I think this is an enormous step forward. I just was talking about those live connect models. And so you expose a model to people, And even if you hide certain columns and things like that, there could be, 20 tables, 20 tables with 10 columns in each, and maybe 5 or 10 measures in each table. And it can get very overwhelming. Okay, now don't forget, we are all analysts. We use Power BI all the time. So we're quite comfortable with models, but most of the end users get very overwhelmed with too much to access. Now, in this case, this is not a lot. There's 3 measures and a couple of columns. Super easy. Most people can do self-service, drag and drop and be fine. But if you've got a complicated model, it becomes too overwhelming. So metric sets allows the report author to create a set. It could be called sales metrics, okay? And then they go and they obviously choose a data set, and then they add dimensions, and they say, okay, out of this dimension, I want these 3 or 4 columns, and out of the next one, I want that column. And you basically hand pick certain tables and specifically certain columns out of those tables that you want to include, as well as measures, okay? And then you share it with people. So you're basically taking a really big semantic model and then breaking it down into little pieces and sharing the sales component with someone or the finance component with someone. And it's just literally a handful of dimensions and a handful of metrics to make it easier. And then you can start, you can basically create a destination where they can go and find the finance metric set and the sales metric set and the production metric set, but they're separated, even if they're all in one actual big model, but they're just easier to use. So I think this is going to be an amazing thing for distributing reporting into the hand of end users without overwhelming them. All right, cool. So that sorts that one out. PBIR, okay. So that came out actually earlier than this. I just chosen this one as the one to tag, and they brought out a few enhancements along the way. I must admit, I personally haven't used it. Some of my colleagues have used it. Certainly in the beginning, it was limited. So, okay, sorry, let me go back a step. This is a developer function. It's meant for developers, where it actually turns the file into 2 parts. So the file extension is PBIR, and then it turns it into a report section and a model section. And I've actually got a link open for that. Visual calculation, simple, maybe it's this one. Yes, there we go. And it allows you to access parts of the report, in fact, and in fact, the definition, and you can get to see all the attributes of the model. Now, I haven't used it because it was buggy in the beginning, and we are still waiting for some enhancements that will come that will make it more stable. Like, yeah, can you remember what Ashraf says, why he doesn't like it? Because you can't, I don't think you can actually publish this file, or once you've published it, you can never go back to a normal version or something like that. So
yes,
the point is,
is
that right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the once you publish it, you can't go back. So you stuck with that version.
The PBIR file, because PBIP, Power BI projects, those you can go backwards and forwards between PBIP and PBIX, which is a good thing. But PBIR, once you've gone in that direction, you can't come back. And if it is that it's not quite stable yet, you actually might want to go back. So I think I'm going to wait and use it a bit later on. But what it does allow is actually going into the file without opening Power BI desktop. You can use modeling tools to go and programmatically go and edit parts of your report. So hide certain things just by changing the script, or copy and paste pages, report pages, with the filters, with the bookmarks, all of that stuff makes all of that kind of manipulation just that much easier. Okay, so it is going to be an amazing thing. I just don't think it is quite ready yet, but certainly does need to be on the top list. Something almost in a way very, very similar, semantic modeling in Visual Studio with the new Tyndall extension. So this actually, I'm just trying to think which one this one is. This is November last year. So Tyndall came out. Yeah, there we go. That came out in February, and it's just a different language or different folder structure for the Power BI files. And in a very similar way that I was just describing now about PBIR, it allows you to get into the attributes using text editors and Visual Studio and things like that. Again, to programmatically change or copy and paste things or find and replace things, that kind of story. So that Tyndall language opens up. It actually replaces scripting language, TMSL, Timsel, which is another strangely worded label. But Tyndall and Timsel, Tyndall is just that much more user-friendly. Maybe that's the best way to think about it. And it's still early days, but they're making it more and more available. And so when it was first released, it was only possible using things like Visual Studio and things like that. But it breaks down your entire model into different sections. Okay, so you can go to the section that deals with pages or bookmarks, or there's the Timsel story replacing with Tyndall. Instead of one big JSON file, which is the old way, you've now got it in a whole lot of different little sections. It makes it just easier. So developers are going to be using this. And then if you fast forward to what Sia mentioned now in January of 2025, is the Tyndall view, which he covered, but it's this new little button down here. And so it's just one step further down the line. In the olden days, you could only, a year ago, you could only use Visual Studio. Now you can do it directly in Power BI Desktop if you enable that feature. It is very exciting. I think it's a game changer. It's more along the lines of this PBIR stuff, just to make it easier to copy and paste things and so on. I know I'm talking a lot. I hope you guys are doing all right out there. If there are questions, like I said, let me know. But I'm going to move to the next one then, unless anyone interrupts and asks something. But visual calculations, it is a very, very big announcement. I will admit that I try a lot of the new features. I really, really do. I enjoy experimenting with new things, but I have not done anything on visual calculations. As far as I'm concerned, it is better to do to use DAX in your model and create measures that achieve what visual calculations achieve, but they do it via a shortcut. So visual calculations allows you to do a calculation inside of a visual. So I could go and create a visual in here that might do this column minus this column and put a new column here. It helps people who don't know how to do DAX that well, because sometimes a formula in DAX is really complicated. Maybe in Excel it's super easy, but in DAX it might be complicated. So that was a really big limitation for people unless they've gone on lots of training or read lots of textbooks. The visual calculations opens up a little window, and you can literally go A minus B, and you can put it in there. And there's a whole lot of other functions that make your life a whole lot easier. But that calculation lives in this visual, which means I can't use it in here, and I can't use it on another page, on any of my other pages. So it is still better to use it in the data model, and you create a measure, and then you can use it wherever you want to. It's just easier to do it as a visual calculation. So that's why it is a game changer for beginners. Okay. So I'm not belittling it. I just think it's better to do it with proper DAX. Did I have a little window on this one? So there's Tyndall. Oh, there's visual calculations there. Okay, so you can go in there and you can say, well, there's the sales amount. Can I do a running total? Okay. Now it's better to do a running total in DAX. And anyway, that's how you do it. But let's not worry too much about that. Okay. Then now those are the A's. Okay. Now we're going on to some of the B's. Okay. Still very, very awesome things. But, dynamic subscriptions for Power BI and paginated reports. Okay. So now you can have a page that goes to 10 different people, and then you can link the email address to certain filters, so that Sven gets the Cape region, and Cailin gets the Gauteng region, but it's the same report. I mean, Power BI works that way anyway, with filters and row level security, but now it basically allows you to do it through email subscriptions and paginated reports. So I think that is actually a wonderful feature that's come out. All right, publish to folders. I don't want to make a huge thing out of it. It's obviously everyone likes to use folders and subfolders. So you could almost argue, why did it take them so long to bring it out? But now that it is here in your workspaces, it is so much better. to be able to have folders and subfolders that you can put reports into. It just cleans them out and makes them less cluttered. So definitely a really cool thing. Yeah, it mustn't be too harsh on the team. They've got so many things to bring out. Anyway, they finally brought this one out, which is great. Here's another one on PowerPoint. So those of you who don't know, you can embed. In fact, when this was first released, I want to say about roughly 2 years ago, I actually had this whole thing in PowerPoint, and I was showing everyone that you could literally, click on there in PowerPoint, live in PowerPoint, or click on there, and it would all work just as you were in PowerPoint. So it's a wonderful, in fact, it's probably the best feature, and field parameters that they've brought out in the last 2 or 3 years. So this is on the list because there's an enhancement made from a few years ago, and that is you can use, where did I go? Yeah, you can replace, instead of URLs, it's a shareable link. Okay, which means when you distribute a PowerPoint file to people, you can choose whether that PowerPoint file actually has a screenshot, a static image of this page, for instance, which means when the other person who's received the PowerPoint, they can't click on anything. But you can also change the settings so that they can click on it. Effectively, they would then need a Power BI license to do that. But assuming they've got already a license and they've got access to the underlying model, then they can, in PowerPoint, just click and interact as they want to. Now, what this update does is it creates a shareable link. So you don't have to go and then allocate people and give permission to it. If they've got the link, it is assumed that they're authorized to have access to that data, and they can use it that way because it's a shareable link rather than a URL. Okay. Publish to folders. Why did I put that there if we've put folder? Oh, no, we've done that one already. Sorry, it just changed the order around a little bit. Okay. No, I've done that. Okay. Oh, here we go. Here's another one. Okay. I'm now on the C's, although I actually, the thing with these things, they're all actually really, really good. I guess what happens is sometimes you might not use it all day, every day, but when you need it, you need it. So for instance, in this case, if someone needs a report once a week or once a day, previously, the only way to do it was an email subscription that would email it to the person, and it would have a static image of that page and a link to the Power BI service, and they could get to the visual or the page. But now what you can do is you can where am I now? There, you can actually put this email subscription can deposit the result in SharePoint or OneDrive. Okay, I think that's very cool. So you can put your weekly reports, your daily reports, literally save in SharePoint and OneDrive. Now you've been able to do that if you use Power Automate for quite some time. You can literally create a trigger every Monday at 8 a.m., run a DAX query. That was also in the top features a couple of years ago, to be able to run a DAX query from Power Automate, generate a visual or an output in Excel, and then save it or email it or escalate it somewhere, but obviously save it in OneDrive or SharePoint. So these things just sometimes, you needed some Power Automate skills, but whereas now you can actually just do it straight through the user interface. So that's a very cool one as well. Okay, there's the dynamic subscriptions. There's a dynamic subscriptions. That's February. That's okay. So this is just adding paginated reports to it. So okay, that shouldn't have been on the list. That's more a duplicate. Okay, line enhancement. This is a strange one. I'm making a big deal out of it. I do give Power BI training from time to time, and I now always show my students this new enhancement. I even did one here for you. It's the tiniest improvement, but such a lovely one. So here is the number of features by year and month. So since okay, well, let's didn't do that very nicely. Let's go and change that quickly. Do it that way. Okay, so now I've got it by February, March, April, May, June, July. It is the standard way of doing line graphs. Up until, what was it, April of last year, you couldn't change it any other way. But now on the format pane under lines, you go to interpolation. And if for nothing else, just to see the animation between the old way and the new way, just watch carefully. I change it to smooth, and it does that very weird little adjustment. Anyway, I think that smooth lines are so much nicer. And by the way, there's also jagged or stepped. So that's that way. Now, depending on the data that's underlying it, that might just be too busy, but there's certain data and analysis that you wanted to do that the step one might be quite nice. But anyway, my personal favorite is smooth. And now there's also other stuff that you can do with lines that came along with that enhancement, which is not there. It is, oh, I was in Power BI. Yes, it was just on a different page. Yeah, so it is a small little one. I just wanted to throw it in there. Okay, I'm going to stop quite soon because I think I've been talking and talking. Live edit in semantic models in direct lake mode. Okay, so live edit. So if you've got a semantic model that's been published, okay, and this whole thing about direct lake, that's a fabric function, that's fabric functionality. Now you can actually go and edit the model in the Power BI service. Now, one of the new releases that Sia mentioned for January this year, it keeps a history of the changes made. Now that's critically important, because what would happen in the old way of doing it is you would make a change. There's no save button. So once you make a change, that change has already been made. Okay, so you can't go back if you made a mistake. Whereas now with the January one, you can roll back to one version prior or two versions prior. But anyway, in this case, you can do live edits in the semantic model for direct lake with Power BI Desktop. So from Power BI Desktop, you can make model changes to something that's already been published in the service. That's actually, yeah, more for hardcore developers. I'll stay away from that one just in this meeting. Okay, matrix layouts. Those who've been using Power BI, Power Pivot, meaning Excel pivot tables, for decades, you are already used to the matrix layouts that were not available in the Power BI. In the Power BI Desktop. I'm wondering if I can quickly do that for you now. Let's maybe do it like this. Let's drag month onto here, turn that into a matrix. Let's do like that. Okay, so row headers, let's put the plus minus on there. So now it's on there. So this is just a normal pivot table, but now what you can do under this new section, layout and style presets, layout. This is what you're used to now in Excel. The compact view, the outline view, or the tabular view. So tabular will turn it into, let's do it this way. Okay, hold on. Come on. Okay, so this kind of story, and then repeat row headers. We'll turn that on. All of this has been in Excel for, like I said, decades, but now it is possible to have it in Power BI Desktop's matrix view. Okay, anyway, I think I must just go back and Control Z. I don't know how many Control Zs I can do just to put it back the way it was. One more. Okay, nearly done. Cool, right. So that was matrix layouts. Okay, parameter, headers and footers and much more in the web authoring experience for paginated reports. So, okay, in July last year, when you're building paginated reports in the service, you can now add headers and footers and parameters. Now, if you've been doing SSRS reports, which have also been out for decades, that was always possible. Then more recently, you've been able to do that through Power BI Report Builder, which is basically saying you can use SSRS functionality to build against a Power BI data set. So all of that's been available for a long time, but this is all talking about doing it in the Power BI service, and it was a very limited experience. Now you can do parameters, headers and footers and other things in the service. So they're making the service more and more feature rich, so that you probably don't have to use Report Builder in the future, and that you can do a lot of it in the service instead. All right, Power BI in Teams, now supporting multi-factor authentication. I think anything to do with security and integration with other apps should be in the top list, since so many people use Teams and so on. So now you've got multi-factor authentication working there. Okay, storyteller. Oh, yes. Okay, now This is PowerPoint. Again, you can have this slide in PowerPoint and then showing up on a TV. Okay, and now with continuous slideshow automatic refresh, it will literally, instead of just showing the page when it was published, it will automatically refresh the page because it's being shown on a TV and you want it to keep updating. So that makes it very, very nice when you've got it on a in a boardroom meeting or a reception area or something like that. So that's pretty cool. All right, and the last one I've just got here, we subscribe to reports on the last day of the month. So when you used to do a subscription, you used to be able to say on a Monday or on the 1st of the month, whatever. Now you can say the last day of the month, which I guess is different. One month to the next, 28th of February, that kind of story. All right, now that I see these special mentions, a lot of them are Copilot. On purpose, we put all the Copilot stuff under special mention because it is not that accessible to the people in this user group. People overseas, they've got a lot more money. They can spend their $5,000 to get a premium capacity and then use Copilot. Whereas for us here, unfortunately, not so easy. So we put the Copilot stuff under special mention. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. Are there questions? I know I did that quite fast, but hopefully that was helpful.
Are there any questions in the room?
No.
Nothing from this side. Is there anything online?
So I have a quick question for you, Sven.
Yes, definitely.
If that's okay. Yeah. So I remember you mentioned that making measures with DAX is better than making measures visually. And I think the main reason you mentioned was for reusability, so that you don't have to repeat yourself over and over again.
Yes.
I was just wondering, do you know if there's any performance impact using a normal measure, DAX measure over a visual measure?
I wouldn't think so. There shouldn't really be a performance issue other than, I guess in the design element, you've got to do it repeatedly if you want to use that same logic in a different visual and a different visual. But the actual running of it, I wouldn't think so. In fact, they've got some new functions that have been built specifically for visual calculations. You might even find that they're actually quicker because they're not dealing with the entire data set. It's just dealing with that little window. I think I've got one here. So it's not dealing with the entire data model that drives that number or that number. It's actually looking at this visual only, which has got 6 numbers in it. A minus B equals C, A minus B equals C. So it only has to do limited work. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably quicker.
Oh, that's interesting to know.
It's a hunch. I haven't used it that much, but I suspect that's the answer.
Interesting. Thanks.
Awesome. Are there any other questions here in the room? Yes,
I do have a question.
There's a question here.
Let me just unmute.
Okay, perfect. He's going to unmute on his side. Oh, it will echo. Can you hear him on this side?
You just say something. I'll just see.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Actually, there's no echo, so that's cool.
All right. Okay, so my question is not on the new features that came through. I've just been struggling with something that I thought maybe other people might not be struggling with, right? So let's say you have a subscription. So the subscription is sending out a report frequently, maybe in a daily or multiple times in a day. Now, that requires a user to have Power BI Premium. And sometimes you find that a user ends up losing their Power BI Premium within the company. And when the Power BI Now subscription, the subscription then stops. You can't save anymore. If you were to make changes to the subscription, then you can't save because it will indicate that there's a user that doesn't have premium. Is this a common problem? Because now, when it says there's a user who doesn't have premium, it doesn't show you which user doesn't have premium. So now you have to do I have to do a trial and error to see out of the 50 users that I had subscribed who were backed with premium, who doesn't have premium anymore, because it's just not allowing me to save, but it's not telling me which user. Is this a common, does anyone have the same problem as me, or is there a solution already?
I haven't come across that.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, why are you using premium? I've got two questions for you. First one is, why are you using premium? Was it because of the number of executions per day? What was the reason for that?
Okay, so maybe I might be missing something, but in Power BI service, when you want to send like a subscription, I was always under the assumption that whoever you subscribe has to have a premium or the pro version.
No, that's different. Not premium, it's pro. Definitely, whomever is receiving the email, they have to have a pro license, but it's a pro license, not a premium license. Because that was going to be my second question. Are you talking about P premium or PPU, which is premium per user? But anyway, I've never not come across the need for a premium license for email subscriptions. It's a pro license. And by the way, there's a way to get around that. You can use Outlook rules to distribute the reports. But a pro license is $10 per user per month. By the way, that's going to go up in April. The price goes up to $14. But look, it's the first time in nearly 10 years. Okay, so since the product was born in July 2015, it will literally be the first time the price has gone up. But it is the first time, and it's happening in April. And that's no April Fool's joke. That is on the 1st of April. It will happen. Yeah. So anyway, try it out. It's obviously a pro license. I think you just used the wrong P word. It's a pro license, but I don't know how to troubleshoot who's the person who doesn't have the pro license. Although I don't think that would be the issue. If you send it to me and I don't have a pro license, I think it should still come to me. I just can't click on it. I can't go to the report in the service. I think that would be the restriction. But I've only ever sent it to people who have a license. But yeah, I'm surprised. But anyway, long story short, I don't have an answer for you. You might have to Google it some more, or you might have to post it on the community website to say this is a bug and see what anyone else has discovered.
The workspace premium.
Yeah, my workspace is premium. But yeah, he is right about the pro users.
Yeah.
But
then you assign, you've got a premium workspace, and you assign the premium per user to the user.
Premium per user. And whenever I do a subscription, like to a Power BI dashboard, it can't let me save if the person is not backed by a pro license. But I'll look more into it. I just thought maybe some people might know the answer to have a solution. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, if anybody does or has experienced that, who is on the chat or online, if you could post a message in the chat and we can just connect you guys together, and then hopefully we can try and help you out. Otherwise, I think, as Sven mentioned, maybe some additional research into that specific unique problem might be in order. Cool. Are there any other questions in the room? Anybody online? Okay, looks like we're all done with the questions then. So first of all, thank you everybody, and thank you Sven for that really insightful talk, and for Sia for the news. I'm sure everybody learned a few things. I must say I'm really happy about the Power BI graph lines that you can now do on those line graphs. That's very nice. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. Apologies for all the technical difficulties for those in office in particular. I know it's been a bit difficult. We've all had multiple laptop screens open, but thank you so much for everyone for joining. We will be having the second event of the year on the 27th of February. It will be an online event only, but for the one in March, it will go back to hybrid, and I will make sure that we don't have the same technical difficulties in office then. But thank you. If there aren't any other questions, thank you everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Before you run, we do need to ask people if anyone wants to volunteer to do a BI flash. We really do love it when people from the community help us. You please don't feel intimidated by it. It's a 5 or 10 minute slot, and if you found something that you've struggled with and then solved it, or you Googled something and it was a really cool answer and you thought you might want to share it with others, please do that. It's 5 or 10 minutes. Just let Cailin or I know. We would love it if you could volunteer. That would be great. And then just one last thing, there was a question in there. Will the what did it say? Just for confirmation, will I still be able to access the slides after the meeting? So the answer there is yes. My one, I'll just PDF it. I'm afraid that's not as helpful, but I'll make it a bit easier to see the comments about each of those features, and then I'll PDF it and put it in that GitHub repository. Sia said he would get his slides ready, and I think Cailin, I'm sure you'd do the same, and then I'll just put them in that folder for us.
Perfect. That sounds great. Yeah, then we will share that all with you so you can go back and have a look after the fact. But yes, please do let us know if any of you have something very interesting you can share with the community. Be greatly appreciated. And if it's something that
once you've solved it.
Yes, once you've solved your problem, you can come teach us all how to solve it. Yeah, please don't be afraid. We're all a friendly bunch here. We all want to learn from each other. So it could also be a good opportunity for you to stretch yourself if you don't like public speaking. Here's a good opportunity. All right, Sven, anything else from your side?
Nope, that's it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining online, and we'll see you next time.
Enjoy the pizzas, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Bye.